Tribes have been a fixture of the human social structure since pretty much when they first evolved. Tribes are essentially a precursor to the modern-day nation-state, even though the term has a bit of a primitive undertone. So, in the days of hearing about tribes in Africa and the Middle East on the news, and native tribes in history classes the new world over, what exactly is a tribe? The term tribe has come under scrutiny somewhat recently, as it is often attached to negative connotations of primitiveness. However, at the very base of the term, a tribe refers to a small group or subdivision with a common culture and ancestry. Tribes are often either detached from their country or countries, but sometimes they can actually make up an entire nation-state in their own right. However, going the other way, tribes can also be described merely as small clans. We'll get to this whole espousal in a bit though. Tribes have been with humanity basically since the genus Homo, first evolved. As social creatures, humans naturally band themselves into distinct social groups. After all, humans aren't exactly the hardest creatures to take down in a fight, having spent a vast amount of their evolution points into maxing their intelligence, leaving little behind for speed, power, defense. Also, of course, you can't really build a pyramid by yourself. I've tried. Anthropologists speculate that tribes most likely first developed as hunter-gatherer bands, with some eventually gradually making the shift to agrarian societies and often into huge civilizations. One proposed classification for tracking the development of human societies throughout the ages, aside from my Patreon tiers, was proposed by anthropologist Elman Service, and states that there are 4 different categories, based on how the groups get their food and how it correlates to their leadership structure. The first tier are small band societies, which are basically small bands of hunter-gatherers with a very egalitarian society. The next tier are horticultural tribes, generally with some sort of rank and leadership. Then come stratified tribal societies, led by chieftains, often called chiefdoms. Then finally come fully fledged agricultural civilizations, complete with cities and ruling classes and railroads and stupid YouTubers and communism and the like. In Native America, there were numerous different tribes spreading all across the continent. Well, actually both continents. While they might not have gotten the chance to have gotten as complex as Europe or Asia, that doesn't mean the whole continent was devoid of civilization. I mean, there were numerous complexities all across the continents, and some parts of the US Constitution may have even been based on the Constitution of the Iroquois Confederacy, which I personally find super cool. Tribes may often make up the states that they're a part of, but that isn't always the case, most notably in post-colonial Africa. In colonial Africa, borders were drawn almost seemingly randomly and for the benefit of keeping the European powers from fighting each other. But as a result, this split up numerous tribes, splitting one tribe among 2 different countries and combining 2 or more tribes into one country. Of course, as a result of this, most of the countries of Africa today are Frankenstein-style creations made from very different tribes, as evidenced in how South Africa has 11 official languages, and how South Sudan really didn't want to be a part of Sudan. However, a tribe doesn't have to be an ancient isolated community in the middle of nowhere, as many take part in modern societies today. Some of the most notable examples can be seen in America's native reservations, which are kind of known for hosting huge casinos even in states where gambling is illegal. Actually, especially in states where gambling is legal. This is because, as the tribes kind of predate the concept of the United States in general, many are allowed to run their own quasi-sovereign domestic-dependent nations within the borders of the states of the United States. The concept of a nation is an interesting one, as a modern nation-state as we know it is really more of a republic mostly populated by one people or group of people who speak mostly the same language and who mostly share the same culture. Think of countries like Poland or Vietnam. Though not everyone in their territories may identify as Polish or Vietnamese, it's more likely than not. This is in contrast to a federation or an empire, which can span multiple nations across vast distances. Think of countries like the United States, or Russia, or the Roman Empire, or even the Iroquois Confederacy. However, the word nation has become more or less intertwined with the word country, at least to most people who really don't care about this sort of stuff. Which is why it can be confusing when mentioning something like the Navajo Nation, which is called a nation despite having no real desire to secede from the Union. In colloquial terms, a tribe doesn't always even necessarily have to refer to a formally recognized group, as you've probably heard many people referencing their tribes. One of Merriam-Webster's definition for the word tribe, other than a, quote, social group comprising of numerous families, clans, or generations together with slaves, dependents, or adopted strangers, can also include, quote, a group of persons having a common character, occupation, or interest, which I guess by this definition could be anything from religious groups to political parties to Trekkies. Though be careful when using a word like this in this way. Thank you as always for watching this video. Now, if you're curious as to just what gave me the idea for this video, it's because everyone in the Discord server has just split up into a bunch of rivaling tribes and everyone's slowly starting to kill each other. So be sure to go to the link in the description below to join in on the fun. Also be sure to follow me on social media and subscribe to learn something new every Sunday.